And also to give us more insights on this new strategy that Ukraine seems to have embarked upon, we're being joined by Ms. Velina Tchakarova, who's the founder of Geopolitical Consultancy. And she's joining us live on this broadcast from Vienna in Austria. Ms. Tchakarova, this is an interesting sort of a development. Now, Russians have said that because they've pulled out of the Black Sea grain deal, any ship that is heading towards a port in Ukraine becomes a legitimate military target, and therefore they've of course got their Black Sea fleet out in full force. But the Ukrainians seem to be trying to break through that blockade by targeting these expensive Russian warships by using what are essentially low-cost naval drones. Tell us more as to how Ukraine has in fact hit upon this strategy.
Well, what we are observing right now is, in fact, the only option that Ukraine has on the table to, in fact, prevent this blockade that Russia has skillfully prepared and has been exercising over the last, let's say, several months. We saw already the official withdrawal of Russia from the Black Sea grain initiative, but in fact, the last 3 months, the 3 key Ukrainian ports have been already blocked and could not ship any grain. Now, what Ukraine is doing is practically to use this only possible way of attacking Russian ships. They use the asymmetric, let's say, response by applying the very same approach that Russia did on Ukraine. And in fact, given the realities on the ground, namely that Russia has to ship around 50 million tons of grain, and right now there are several key Russian ports that will consider, of course, the high risk of this retaliatory measure from Ukraine starting with August 23rd. I think that this is the only way how to pressure Russia to stop this blockade, because what we are seeing is not only having an impact on Ukraine, specifically on the war, and more specifically on the economic, of course, clout that Ukraine relies on with the shipment of the grain, but it will have a global impact similar to what we saw last year, starting with the period immediately after the launch of the war, namely food crisis. And of course, the whole world doesn't want to see food crisis 2.0. So the only option right now is to exercise international pressure on Russia, and at the same time, what Ukraine is doing right now with these drone attacks.
Absolutely, indeed. And also my quick question to you is, how successful do you think this strategy is likely to be? Because these naval drones are said to be very simple contraptions. The drone that in fact struck the Russian warship yesterday night reportedly carried explosives of about 450 kilograms before it rammed into the warship. How successful do you think Ukraine will be in actually denting the Russian presence in the Black Sea?
Well, what we saw yesterday is that Russian ships are once again vulnerable to Ukrainian attacks, similar to the moment, if you remember, last year with the very, very striking episode of the attack on Moskva ship, which, of course, pushed the Russians to, adapt their naval presence. And right now, this Ukrainian attack will once again push the Russians to adapt accordingly. And as I said, right now we are in the most, let's say, critical phase of this counteroffensive of Ukraine. In fact, the most active phase of the counteroffensive is just beginning. And obviously, Russia is applying a very successful geo-economic component to this warfare. That is, as I said, with the food crisis episode.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Tchakarova, for joining us and getting us all those insights there.
Thank you.